Boom. Okay, now we're live. We're recording. All right, guys, go ahead. What did you think? Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Pretty good. I'd give it like I'd give it a yeah. Out of how good was it?
Yeah. Yeah, I would
So,
say that like it definitely picks it up from the essentially I would say the first part of this movie, like how how Temple of Doom is supposed to be a prequel. The first part of this movie, this origin story of young Indiana Jones and all that, does more than the entire Temple of Doom and
Oh,
establishing
totally.
the character of Indiana Jones. And it was interesting that like they felt they wanted to do that prequel, but really you got almost all you really needed from the whole young Indiana Jones part in the beginning. And yeah, no, plus again, Sean Connery adds so much to this.
man, Sean Connery was so good. Such a good role for him. So you
And I
guys
think
liked it
this
a
is
lot
definitely one
better
of his
than.
better roles.
So you guys liked it a
Go ahead.
lot better than Temple of Doom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Temple of Doom I would say is a not good movie, and if you skipped it outright, it wouldn't even be bad. Like you would miss nothing
You'd miss Temple of
other than
Doom,
like the
man.
action sequence.
You'd miss Monkey Brain Soup.
I forgot about that, and the first question Emily asked me as I finished this was this movie as problematic as the Temple of Doom? And I can definitely say that it was not.
I mean, it helps again when the bad character, like when they don't, when basically not all non-white characters are bad in this movie.
Right.
Um, at least it helps that there's also tertiary people that are involved, such as the Brotherhood that was protecting the Grail. Um, it helps in this movie too, as you know, that you point out that like there's roles for everybody in this. It doesn't feel like there's actual character development too. There's characters going through arcs. Um, and in general, like it's just the charisma play with everybody. Although did everybody else notice? I really felt like this was one of the re-edits that was done upon this rewatch, and then I realized it's always been in there. In the very first sequence, when young Indiana Jones is on the train, and the Rhino and the animatronic Rhino is coming up through, and he goes, "Oh shit!" But he actually says, "Oh shoot."
Yeah.
And the ADR on that is so blatant that I felt like that was one of the fixes that George Lucas and Spielberg went and did later. But apparently, upon when I researched it, it's always been "oh shoot."
Yeah, I didn't notice that, but you told me about that, but I mean, I didn't notice. I thought he said, "Oh shoot." I mean, I didn't even like didn't even register with me. And that's just such a cool scene, man. The first scene of the movie, I mean, it's such a great opening. I mean, this movie is a masterpiece. Um and I said last week, because last week we talked about Temple of Doom, the second movie in the franchise, and I said that was my favorite. But this one, that's only because I forgot how good this movie was. This is definitely my favorite out of the three. I mean, The Last Crusade is so freaking good. I would give it, what, like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. It's the perfect action adventure movie. And it
Really, that
starts
high?
with what?
That high? I would give it like I'd
I'll
give it
give
a
it a 9.
7.
No, I would
I
give it
think
a
it
9 at least.
I definitely think Raiders is the better between the two.
Raiders is a more cohesive movie because it's all one story. Uh,
Right.
this one, like, there are things like you have the return of characters like Salah, but he's there for like two scenes, you
Hmm.
know, and it's sort of like that's just more of a callback. Whereas like Raiders definitely is a story that has everybody a complete middle and end. But this one is, I think, a good bookend on a trilogy that probably should have stayed as a trilogy, but it won't. It didn't, and we're gonna get Indiana Jones 5 now.
Yeah, and I'm excited for that movie, but I mean it's still kind of a trilogy because it's you have these Indiana Jones movies from the 80s, and they feel very much like a trilogy, because
Mhm.
then the fourth one feels very different. So I mean it's still kind of a continuation of the franchise, but really the core Indiana Jones movies are the 80s Indiana Jones. Um, but that's I don't know
I
if
found
we
the
can talk
humor in
about it
this
right.
one some.
What?
I was gonna say that one thing I would add to why this movie is better than Temple of Doom is the humor is on point. Like there actually is like levity to so many scenes that it actually adds to it rather than is there to make the movie not get an R rating.
Right.
I I mean everything about the movie is fantastic. Everything about the movie is perfect for an action adventure movie, and the humor is one of those things. I mean it's on point. Every scene is funny, exciting. Man, this movie. I mean, you're talking about funny. I mean, this movie's so funny at times. And it's ridiculous, but it doesn't feel disjointed. It doesn't feel like it still feels like this is a kind of a serious movie, but it's not a serious movie. Obviously, not like really serious. But so the tone doesn't feel disjointed, even though they have some ridiculous scenes, like the Hitler scene. I mean, that's such a ridiculous scene. I forgot about that, but it's
I mean,
so
it's pretty.
funny. I laughed so much.
Yeah, it's definitely like a good scene in the sense that it helps you share the suspense.
It's just ridiculous. I
And
mean, he meets Hitler and he gets an autograph from Hitler in the book
right,
of secrets.
His dad's
It's
diary.
just
Yeah.
crazy, but it's so funny. And then the ticket scene shortly after the Berlin like scenes is probably my favorite part of the movie. And I even forgot about that. My memory is shit because I've seen this movie like 5 times. I didn't even remember the
Well,
Berlin
I
part.
think the no ticket line is one that gets parodied a lot in a lot of movies. I think was it in Dogma? There's a scene where Silent Bob throws a guy off the plane, and then everybody looks at, or throws a guy off the train, and everybody looks at him and goes, "No ticket."
Man, it's so funny.
He
It's
does
so
it with
funny.
the same thumb flip, and so I feel like I've seen it like used before. Like that scene, I feel is pretty iconic.
Yeah, I mean it's great.
there are definitely a few scenes in this movie where I was like, really, this trope? And then I realized it wasn't really fair of me to hold that against this movie since it was probably the other way around.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if some well-versed film critic was able to point back at this movie and say this is where this is the origin of all of these tropes that you recognize. So it was kind of appreciative to see that. And on a somewhat unrelated note, this is the third of the 3 Indiana Jones movies we've watched that has the Wilhelm scream in it.
Yeah.
And
that's George Lucas.
Yeah, it's at the point where like I don't know how to feel about the Wilhelm scream anymore.
Because you probably heard it in every movie.
I mean, once you hear it, you can't unhear it.
Yeah.
The what scream?
The Wilhelm scream.
What's that?
So it goes back to a fairly old movie. It's a very
Like
over the top scream. You hear it a lot in Star Wars.
That scream where it's like, bah!
Yeah. So in the first Star Wars movie when he shoots a stormtrooper on a catwalk, like up on the higher catwalk, and he falls over, like, and he does this totally over the top scream. Like that's the one where I think a lot of people most remember it from. That's the Wilhelm scream.
Like
Look it up.
when someone gets shot.
Yeah. He like falls down and goes, "Wah!"
Okay.
Hang on, I want to see if I can play it.
All right. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about now. It's not something that registered with me, but yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, and we've talked about that before, talking about the earlier movies. Temple of Doom and Raiders of the Lost Ark. But I think with this movie, it's even more clear. I mean, how much of a template this movie is. You know, Indiana Jones is for the whole genre, action adventure genre, and it's obviously not just movies. In fact, I think movies didn't really. We haven't had as many movies as I would have liked in the action adventure genres. You know, we've had National Treasure, Da Vinci Code, which is the adaptation of a book, The Mummy to some extent, but really the video games. You know, Broken Sword, you know, Uncharted, Tomb Raider, and I was looking at this movie. I was watching this movie, and so many of the stuff that you see in this movie makes its way to those franchises. It really is like a template. Even
I mean,
like the
Yeah, I mean,
the Venice scene, you know, the Venice scene, you know, that's one of the first scenes in the original Tomb Raider. Just to
yeah.
give you an example, I mean, the chases, the motorboat chases, the motorcycle chase, which is so funny with Sean Connery in that little what do you call that?
in the sidecar.
Yeah, the sidecar. I mean, that's beautiful. And the relationship between Sean Connery and Harrison Ford, man, it's so funny. They have
Yeah,
such
they definitely.
great chemistry.
I thought that was a fantastic casting decision. I mean, obviously you can't uncast Harrison Ford, but Sean Connery as his, father is absolutely everything you would want out of that character.
And you know why I think they cast Sean Connery, and this might not be true. This is pure speculation, but I think it would make a whole lot of sense because watching Indiana Jones, I really feel like they were getting a lot of things from James Bond. You
Hmm.
know, so I wonder, did they cast Sean Connery because he's James Bond, and
I
then
mean,
they
there's a
turn
little
him
bit of
That's an
meta.
interesting question.
into a sissy, maybe just to make fun of that.
I mean,
I guess I wouldn't say like a sissy so much as it's them, uh, spiritually passing the torch
yeah.
of the genre.
Yeah, but I think they're making fun of it. I think they're making fun of James Bond. And this is pure speculation, but I think it would make sense.
I mean, they did give him some of the best lines, though.
Oh no, he's fantastic. He's fantastic, but it's so funny how he's like the bookworm, you know, when, you know, this is not just some guy, you know, this is Sean Connery, this is James Bond, this is the prototype of the action adventure hero really in movies. And they turn him into this bookworm, and Harrison Ford now is the hero, you know. But the way they do it, it's really funny, and both of them come out great, you know, because they're both great in the movie, and the chemistry is absolutely off the charts.
I just like how deadpan he is about a lot of things. How he's just like, she's with them. It's like, no, I would know that. It's like, no, she's with them. Trust
Oh,
me.
the fact that they both slept with the girl, that was so
Oh, yeah.
funny as well.
Uh,
I wonder if they were like making fun of the James Bond thing with that. Because, you know, James Bond, Sean Connery used to sleep with every girl in every movie, in every James Bond. And it was always a different girl. I think that's one of the things that they took from James Bond. You know, in every Indiana Jones, you have an Indiana Jones girl, and they're always good
Yeah.
looking.
And it's always like the one female character.
Yeah,
Although
and
James,
he always sleeps with them.
although now James Bond has gotten to where it's like now there's two, and one's gonna be good, one's gonna be bad.
Was it always like that? Was it always true? No, right? It
No,
was.
I'm saying that's more recent. They've been
I
doing.
know, but I don't remember. I think it used to be like one girl, right?
Yeah, but I think starting with oh man, starting with the Pierce Brosnan ones, they'd have multiple. Uh,
Maybe Pierce Brosnan is some sort of pervert. It's like, give me two.
Probably a pervert.
I mean, there's a lot of we've been learning there's a lot of perverts in
In Hollywood.
Hollywood. Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it?
Well, Corey Feldman's been trying to tell us that for years.
I think Pierce Brosnan was probably a pervert, and he wanted two girls instead of one. That's how it started.
Well, I think some of it also was some of the criticism for James Bond movies, but there'd only be one woman character in every movie, and so they worked to add more depth to it.
And Pierce Brosnan also got some of the hottest ones. He got Madonna He got Carmen Electra in her peak. Who else did he get? He got some good ones.
I would say Daniel Craig hasn't done too badly, but
No, I mean
he
he's
has,
done
my
great.
opinion, the best Bond woman, which was in Casino Royale, and that was one that basically got away.
Casino Royale. Eva Green, right?
Yeah, my favorite actress.
He did very well with that one.
But the actress in this, I keep on forgetting her name though.
And in the second one, it's that Russian chick in the
Yeah.
second James Bond movie with Daniel Craig. She's also gorgeous.
Yeah, in The Last Crusade, though, I'm trying to remember the name of the actress.
By the way, that's another thing why that's another reason why The Last Crusade is the best out of the three, because it has the prettiest Indiana Jones girl, Elsa Schneider, and the coolest, in my opinion, the Nazi chick.
Well, she acts as a good secondary villain in this, in that she's supposed to generate some sympathy for being also a an educated person. She's very like, and she's supposed to be like all about like history, and but like in the end, her greed is part of the problem, the flaw within that. And so,
Man, the ending of that movie is so good. It's just beautiful for an action adventure movie, obviously. I was gonna say something I forgot. Oh yeah. So because you said like Elsa Schneider, yeah, she's a Nazi. I wanted to ask you guys why do you think they chose to set these movies in the 1930s and not the 1980s? Why do you think they made that decision? That's kind of an odd decision to make.
A lot of the world, a lot of ancient, like it's a time when there was still stuff that we were still exploring, and so there was still a chance. Like it was a more appropriate
kind of an age of exploration.
Yeah. Like.
But the 1930s was not really exploration anymore, right?
Well, I guess I wouldn't say it was an age of exploration, but I would say the 1930s was kind of the age of like the international scene opening up to the layman.
Yeah.
So like international flights became a thing. That's when, like consumer air travel really took off, and, traveling became like sexy and you could go do it and it was appealing. So it really, gave people a new lease on other cultures in a lot of ways, I think. So I think it's definitely an era that is like ripe with that like sense of adventure.
Yeah, early 1900s in general. Like I grew up also with the Tintin stories, and those were early 1900s as well.
Do you think that was an influence actually?
Perhaps, yeah. There's some of that, but Tintin was he was a reporter, like he was an investigator.
Yeah, but he's an investigator adventurer. Like Indiana Jones is an archaeologist adventurer.
Yeah, and so like it was a time of where like the educated, the academic with a sense of adventure was the kind of hero that people wanted.
I think it would be really cool to talk to Spielberg and Lucas about it and
let's get them on the show.
Yeah,
man, it would be so cool to ask them. Why did you choose to set it in the 30s? I think they probably had a very good reason to do that. I just not clear. I think it's probably about because they're a lot older than us, obviously, so they probably grew up. I think that's maybe something like that. They grew up with some influences from the 30s, like Tintin. I think Tintin is set around that time period.
He's more early 1900s.
No, I think 1930s is about right.
Oh,
I don't know
really?
anything about Tintin.
What?
I don't know anything about Tintin.
You're missing out.
It sounds like a dog.
French comic. It's a French comic that.
It's the best French comic. It's like the classic. It's basically the quintessential European comic book.
Yeah.
and it's absolutely fantastic. It's an adventure. It's
My-
basically this guy Tintin, and he's a reporter.
So
And
he's like Batman.
what?
So he's like Batman.
No, he's more like Indiana
Superman.
Jones, except instead of being an archaeologist, he's a reporter. So he goes to like these different places. He's not looking for ancient relics. He's looking basically for news, usually some sort
Yeah.
of,
Mhm.
and he finds himself in these like really cool adventures, Indiana
Yeah,
Jones
he's
style.
like his best friend is a ship captain, Captain Haddock.
Yeah, that's when Tintin actually gets a lot better as well. Is when he finds this guy and he becomes part of like the group. It's him, the dog, and the captain. And the captain is it's basically this drunk sailor that's always really drunk
Sailor
and he's
Jerry.
swearing, and he's a lot of fun. And they have crazy adventures around the world. It's a great
He's
comic.
drunk and he's swearing. He's a lot of fun.
He's a
You
French,
sold me on
French international man of mystery. Basically.
Exactly.
Ooh.
No, that's and I know that Spielberg is a big fan of the Adventures of Tintin. In fact, he made the movie. He made the adaptation. Which
Yeah,
is
he did.
an animated movie that is. It cost a lot of money to make. I think they probably didn't make money with that movie. That's why they didn't make a sequel, because the budget was so big. And there's no like you, Ian. You don't know what Tintin is, and I think that's a problem with the movies that. There's no name recognition in the U.S.
Yeah, had San Diego Comic-Con been on this year, I was gonna go as Captain Haddock, and my friend was gonna go as Tintin, and we were gonna be Tintin and Haddock.
Who's
See,
going
that's
to
a
be
deep cut I wouldn't have recognized.
We might get recognized more there because it's international, but I've been putting more efforts into my cosplay whenever I go. So,
Who are you going to go with?
some friends I know back from Missouri.
Okay.
We were actually going to try to coordinate this year. Last year we all did separate stuff. I had a red Power Ranger outfit that I combined with some cowboy and Lone Ranger kind of stuff. So I was the Lone Ranger.
I get it. It's like Jon Snow White.
Yeah. And so I got a lot of compliments, including from George Takei. He looked at me, he goes to me, Lone Ranger.
That's sick.
Louis C.K.
No,
George Takei.
George Takei.
Oh, George Takei.
Sulu from Star Trek.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, no, I got his
cool.
book and I went to get it signed. He was super excited.
That's
And
pretty
that made
cool.
me, of course, that was my whole trip. So
Yeah, that's awesome. So,
But yeah,
another thing that is so good in this movie is the score, man. When you have these adventures. What?
that's John Williams for you.
Isn't he's the guy that made the Star Wars score, right?
Star Wars, Jaws, Superman, the original Superman movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like the guy is the legend of music scores.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Um,
Holy shit, he made Superman, the Superman score, Star Wars, Indiana Jones. Those are probably the three best of all time.
yeah, like it's so good that whenever they try to make new Superman movies, they always have to have a little twinge of the dun 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 dun.
It's so good. Yeah, I don't think you can have a Superman movie without that.
No, even in the Zack Snyder dreadful slog of Man of Steel, they had to do
Oh, you
hints of
didn't
it.
you didn't like Man of Steel?
It's just sad. Like there's no like I despise the efforts of DC to take the fun out of all their characters. Only Batman's allowed to be that dour.
Yeah,
And it
only
makes-
Batman is cool anymore.
Well, it's like when they try to make everyone so serious and so. Oh, hi Ronnie.
Hi, Ronnie.
Ronnie, come back.
Ronnie's shy.
But
So am
yeah,
I.
I actually like Man of Steel, but I thought you were gonna say Batman versus Superman. That one was horrible.
well, no, I mean, so my point being that is that like
There she is.
Just being
He wants to be in
silly.
the podcast. It's cool.
Ronnie, come here.
That's funny.
I don't know what's up with her right now. But like, so and this relates to Indiana Jones as well. But like, so this movie, like we watched, is just so fun. So like, Batman's the brooding, contemplative hero. Like he's the one who makes that work, makes that cool. Like the other DC heroes, Superman's supposed. I mean, yeah, it's cheesy, but he's the big Boy Scout. He's the guy who is the inspiration, the guy who tries to do things the right way, and like he's an allegory also for the refugee. Sees that he's essentially like the world's most powerful refugee.
But I kind of felt that in Man of Steel. I think they did a decent job at.
Yeah, I just felt like it's just sad. Like, you know, his dad dies and he doesn't for like no reason. I felt like, Jonathan Kent's death in the comics actually is supposed to mean a lot more. And I don't know. And then like it's just so plus like man, the massive destruction that he inflicts upon Metropolis during his fight with Zod is like totally counter to the Superman character. He would have been spending most of that fight trying to save people from all that debris. Like that's who he is.
Well, that's actually something that they realized how they kind of messed up in that scene, right? So that was part of the plot of Batman versus Superman, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, but I feel like you don't double down on that.
Yeah, you definitely don't double. I mean, that's why, Batman versus Superman was such a disaster of a movie.
Yeah, I mean, he just kind of turns into Murder Man.
Yeah.
The only thing good about Batman versus Superman was the trailer. That was the only good thing about the movie.
You gonna come hang out with us? We're talking movies.
Zack Snyder doesn't make the best movies, but he makes the best trailers. His trailers
What's her favorite movie?
Her favorite, actually, she has a favorite TV show. She loves His Dark Materials because all the demons that the characters have, that are all these different animals.
Is she your demon?
I think she's Lauren's demon.
She's your demon. Lauren's demon?
We did it like one of those quizzes, and like Lauren gets a dog, and then I get a ferret.
I think my demon is here.
I don't care.
Come, demon. Come.
Come on, give me your toy. Yeah, but but like essentially though, I feel like if you're like dark, serious adventure movies, like that's your Batman. That's not Indiana Jones. That's not Superman. There's different themes to these. Like this is why this movie works so much better than Temple of Doom is that it's fun. It's not.
Why do you think they can't do fantastic scores anymore like that? Because I don't remember when was the last time I watched a movie that I thought, well, this has like one of those old school, really cool movie scores. Like I don't remember honestly the last time I watched a movie like that. I mean,
I will listen to the Mad Max Fury Road soundtrack anytime. Like that soundtrack slaps.
Fury Road, Star Wars Episode 3.
Star Wars Episode 3. Which one? Like the prequel?
Episode 3, the prequels. Yeah,
no, but that's the old score. Like they have the old.
Still John Williams.
Yeah, they have still the Star Wars score, which is amazing.
I mean, Lord of the Rings had great scores.
That's the last one, probably. That was the
no,
last.
Mad Max. I would say is the most recent.
Mad Max, I can't even remember. Like, does it really have like an iconic score? I can't remember.
Mad Max. Oh man, I think of like
Fury Road.
Yeah, I think of the scene when Furiosa and Mad Max are like in the car together fighting off the motorcycle men who were flying everywhere, and just the whole kinetic energy of it. And there's just this. That movie is just like honestly rewatch it and just listen to the music. It just keeps your heart going.
No,
The
I
whole
remember the music was really good. I just don't remember it being so iconic, you know. So it's like you're watching Indiana Jones, and the music is part of. Uh, you associate, right? You associate this music with the character in a very. It's seamless, you know. It's like
actually, you know
Superman.
which recent movie out of like the superheroes and whatnot that I always remember is actually the Wonder Woman theme. Whenever like that one is always distinct to me. Like I hear it, like that
But
guitar riff.
it's weird though. It's weird. It seems out of place. It's
But
cool, but it seems out of place. It's not really that good.
I always like it. It's something exotic about it, and which comes from the Amazons. And, like I always liked it, but like
You
Mad
know,
Max.
you know one that I remember right now, Pirates of the Caribbean. That one they have a good score, and you associate that with the Pirates of the Caribbean movies,
Who did?
and that's a
Who did
fantastic adventure score.
I
But
definitely
it's
think there are
not
two
that.
kinds of scores.
But it's kind
So
of old already.
I guess I would make the difference between, or the distinction between a score and a soundtrack.
Yeah,
So like a movie with a great soundtrack is like Guardians of the Galaxy,
yeah.
right? Full of bangers, but none of them were originally composed for the movie,
Yeah,
and none
that's
of them specifically make you think of the movie um,
yeah. It's
the
like
way
Tarantino.
Indiana Jones, like the overture does. To your point, Bruno.
Yeah,
Like
it's like Tarantino.
Dark Knight, the
Tarantino
Dark
has.
Knight trilogy had a decent one too. Hans Zimmer has made some pretty good ones. I get, yeah, when it comes down to it.
Harry Potter comes to mind.
Yeah.
Yep, that's another one. Yeah.
Wait a minute, I gotta remember something.
I would say like the latest one I think was Pirates of the Caribbean, but they really should bring back that
So you
magic.
know who came up with the theme for Harry Potter? John
Oh,
Williams.
oh,
Really?
the
Yep.
same guy, right?
I guess I'm just gonna keep naming John Williams.
And that's just
Scores.
the guy is just that good.
I can't believe he invented music.
Yeah, that guy invented music for movies, basically.
Yeah, no, he has. I mean, you feel it though when it comes down to his.
It really accentuates whatever you're watching. It really elevates the material. Like it makes you feel the adventure, the excitement when you watch the Indiana Jones score. And in the Last Crusade, I mean, they have so many good scenes when you hear that score, and it just feels like you're in this huge epic adventure with Indiana Jones and his father. And it's such a fun movie to watch, really.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that I think a movie with a good score helps it feel original in the sense that like it just sticks. It helps you affirm the scene itself more. I think there's something definitely magical about that. Like even just like certain like sounds, like the knife stabbing scene in Psycho, right? Like you can always hear like that. "Da, nah, nah." I wouldn't really point towards the movie as a movie with a score, but I think yeah, I think you've definitely got a fantastic point on that one.
Yeah, it's whenever you hear the music and you know what's about to come on.
All right, Dan. What about Jurassic Park?
Yeah.
Is that another one of his?
I
Yes.
bet it is. I bet it is.
Because it's Spielberg.
Man, Spielberg should really pay
Yeah,
him a lot of money. I hope he paid him a lot of money.
Yeah, Jurassic Park is also John Williams.
Man,
that guy's so good. Jurassic Park I mean, the sound, the soundtrack, the score is so good as well. It's just so iconic. Like how it's like those sound the score just really it feels like it's the right one for those movies, you know.
yeah. I mean, you can't imagine anything else.
Exactly, you can't imagine anything else.
E.T.
I don't know if you've seen the final episode of, or the final scene in Star Wars, um, Return of the Jedi. Yeah, the final scene in Return of the Jedi when they're like giving them all medals at
Well, that's
was it Imperial City?
yeah.
Wait, which
Yeah,
one?
and if you
Return of the
that's
Jedi. Which one is that one?
it
Return of the
should be
Jedi.
episode 6, right?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
the medal scene is A New Hope, it's episode 4.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. But anyways, the scene where they're giving them all the medals, like if you watch that scene on mute, it's really boring.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
completely made by the score.
Well, that's the whole brilliant thing about the first Star Wars is that the first cut of it, they said this movie's boring, but it wasn't edited well, and it didn't have the score. You know, that movie is given life a lot by its music.
Yeah, the music really makes things alive. I mean, can you imagine Jaws without the score? It wouldn't be Jaws. It wouldn't be the same movie.
Oh, it would suck.
It would probably suck.
It would just be Deep Blue Sea.
Which I love, by the way. It's a terrible movie that I love. It's probably the worst movie that I really like.
Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah,
You
man.
can get you watching some like worse movies.
Yeah, you need to watch some bad stuff, man.
No, but I really
Watch
like
Troll
it.
2.
It's really bad, but I really like. I love when Morgan Freeman? No, Samuel L. Jackson. He gets eaten by that shark when he's making that speech.
Yeah, a whole shark just eats him.
It just eats him, and it's just so ridiculous. Like the whole movie is absolutely ridiculous, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, no, there's there's other. You need to be watching some other bad movies that are entertaining.
Which ones?
I mean, Troll 2 is just hilarious on its own, but like we watched recently with a bunch of friends, Samurai Cop.
Never
That
seen
sounds
that
pretty
one.
sick,
Samurai
actually.
Huh?
Samurai Cop?
Yeah,
Never heard of it.
Me neither.
it's awful.
Awful like Deep Blue
This-
Sea or deeper?
Probably worse.
What? What are you whining about?
Another scene that I really need to talk about because it was so good. The beginning of the movie really sets the tone. River Phoenix, fantastic as the young Indiana Jones, and it's so cool how they, from the in the whole scene, there in the whole like the intro scene, which is set in. By the way, when do you think that scene is set? Probably in 19.
Didn't they say 1913 or something, or 1912?
Yeah.
1913.
1912, 1913, something like that.
Yeah, that would make sense. So it's pretty much still the Wild West in a sense. It's like Red Dead Redemption almost.
Mhm.
And it's cool because it really is like a Western, and you get this Western vibe from Indy, but it's not really Western. It's like set in the 1930s. But in that intro scene, it's cool because it does feel like a Western. When he's running away, you have that classic Western scene. He's galloping, and he climbs on the train, just like all those train robberies in the Westerns, and that's super cool. The traveling carnival, the traveling like zoo, really so cool. And it's cool like how they're subverting our expectations, so it makes it a little bit different. You think at first that guy wearing the hat is Indiana Jones, then you see his face and oh, that's not Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is the River Phoenix. And then we get to know how he got the hat, the whip, which is a great scene with the lion, by the way. And how he became afraid of snakes in that really cool scene with the reptiles, the rhino. I mean, holy shit! I mean,
Like I said, that whole opening prologue does more as a prequel than all of Temple of Doom in setting up to you to know who Indiana Jones is.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like building character, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think that was the intention with Temple of Doom. But yeah.
I couldn't help but notice that all of these animals looked really, really good, which makes me think that like they probably just got those animals for those scenes.
Well, the rhino was animatronic, but
Okay.
But the alligators seem pretty real,
like-
and the snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
like
they
the
were
snakes and the rats and like anything that I feel like would be pretty cheap. Like I bet you could get, a couple of cases of snakes and a couple of cases of rats for like very expendable amounts of money and just be like, you know what, we're just gonna fill this sewer stage set with rats.
Yeah, I think the rhino, particularly when he's like, I noticed the animatronic there briefly. That is the problem sometimes with when you watch in higher def TVs now, is that sometimes you pick up on things. Um, for that reason, don't ever watch Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon in 4K.
Yeah,
You're gonna
things like that don't scale up well.
Well, no, you see the wires now.
Uh-huh.
You see
The
the
wire
wires.
work. Yeah,
Why?
because now you have so many more pixels that before when they were hidden due to there not being enough like
Yeah,
it's now.
it's just detail and upscaling.
Yeah, hopefully they go back and clean that up, because somebody was showing me like, oh, yes, you can see the wires better now.
That's a fantastic movie, by the way.
Yeah,
If you don't see the wires, if you see the wires, probably not a good movie.
I don't know. I think you lose some of the magic, but it doesn't make any of the effort less. So
the movie, I'd say it still holds up. I just did some rewatching of it recently. It's one of the movies I have on DVD, and it's there's actually a lot, like the fight scenes are actually a lot shorter than I remember,
I
which is a
remember
good
them
thing.
being really long, actually.
yeah, one of the things that I guess I was slightly disappointed with in the movie was some of the green screen effects.
In
I
this one,
think, yeah, you get to the point where like they definitely don't hold up as well. Um, you could tell that like the technology wasn't quite as comfortable for people or for special effects crews at the time, because things just look like a little bit tackier.
definitely green screen in general. It's if it That's why, like, if you ever rewatch Return of the Jedi, like the oldest DVDs that you have, like
Mhm.
it actually kind of looks worse than A New Hope, because of the green screen effects that they had going on the Tatooine scenes. And this one definitely has more of those green screen. I feel like they had less big action sets that worked so well in Temple of Doom, like the mine shaft ride and stuff like that was so well done. Whereas this one, it was, I don't know whether the budgets were going elsewhere. Maybe they had to pay Sean Connery too much, but it didn't. It definitely felt like that there was less of that.
Well, it might have been because in this movie there are so many action scenes.
There are quite a bit, yeah.
And they're so epic. Temple of Doom, you had fantastic scenes, but they weren't quite in the same scale. I mean, in this movie, look at the sets that they had to build. I mean, it's a very big scale.
Every time I watch this movie, I always think, so are these literally the first people ever to attempt these trials? Because I was like, wouldn't there be just holes all over that second trial if people had like fallen through before?
I mean, assuming anybody ever got that far, if they just didn't know to duck.
Yeah.
Man, that scene is my favorite scene in the movie. The three trials. It's so cool.
I was a little bit disappointed with the third one.
I feel the third one doesn't hold up as well.
So which one is the third one? The first one is the duck one.
It's the Walk of Faith.
The Leap of Faith, which made me think Assassin's Creed. Maybe that's where they got the name from.
But I feel the Leap of Faith is the one that, like, I would have liked it better if the bridge itself was a little flatter. Like the fact that you realize later that it's a 2-foot stone thing. So if anybody just like looked sideways like this, they would see it.
That was very dangerous.
Yeah, so I felt like the effect itself was really disappointing until you get to the end where Indy throws a handful of dirt on it and then like it fills in perfectly. Like that 2-second shot looks fantastic, and that's what should have been like the first thing.
Yeah.
It's
It
still
feels
Because
great.
like as the camera just pans over and you're just like, oh, it's like a perspective trick.
Yeah. So which one is the third one? Is it the
That's the third
chalice?
one. The second one is the steps for Jehovah.
Spelling
Oh,
Jehovah.
you're right. You're right. Yeah. That one is
Uh,
fantastic as well.
yeah, yeah. No, I guess like we are to assume that no one has tried this since it has been implemented because there were no holes in the floor.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mhm.
Well, yeah. I guess yeah, we should assume that in any case
Yeah.
to make more sense. Another thing that I'm not sure if this makes sense, I wanted to ask you guys. So Indy does drink from the cup. So
Yeah.
does that
Yeah.
mean that he needs to live like hundreds of years or at least until he's very, very, very old after that?
No, the cup's power only work within that area. That's what the knight says, I believe.
No, I don't think so because that wouldn't be congruent with the story that one of the knights that left then lived on to be like 150 or something like that, you know?
Yeah, but
That's
I
the
mean, he was
story
just
that they
hanging
tell.
out there for that whole time.
Yeah, I think he left and he was 150, but like it's not that then he aged, but like then he proceeded to continue to age. He no longer preserved his life at that
Oh, so
point.
maybe he waited in the cave a long time and then
Yeah,
he left like long, okay, and then he aged after that.
because I think that's supposed to be the catch is that this isn't just a cup you can then take and then people can live forever.
So
You know,
what's the point of drinking from the cup and then you get stuck in that cave? I mean, what's the point?
and what's the point of the Ark of the Covenant? Like,
That's kind of a rotten deal. These ancient relics are pretty much a rotten deal. One melts your face. The other one you get stuck on a cave for all of eternity, or until you get bored that you want to basically die.
Yeah, I don't know why these Nazis want him so bad.
These
yeah.
Nazis are kind of dumb.
Well, I mean, this third one, it was more of a capitalist, like just a rich white dude who didn't care who he was helping with, whether they be Nazis, fascists, whatever.
He wanted to live forever though.
He
Got,
did,
he got screwed. He had like 5 seconds, and then
but I like that there's a little bit of nuance in that. Like, it's not that he's racist. He just doesn't care. He's just okay with racist people because he's rich and he's a white dude. And
He's a capitalist, so it's okay to excuse his lack of morals.
I think
yeah,
he just wanted to live forever. He didn't really care about anything else.
but no, this again, it's why I kind of like him. I like the fact that it wasn't just they're up against the Nazis this time. It's like, you know, they had a little bit of color to a little. Well, he's still white. They had a little bit of depth or a little bit of distance from that, so it's not just fighting Nazis again.
Yeah, it was good that it still felt a little bit repetitive because the Ark movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's against the Nazis. This one is against the Nazis again, so it's a little bit repetitive. But
Nazis were the big villains at that time, and then at that time period, like it makes,
well, maybe that's the reason why they chose to set it in the 30s in the first place. I don't know, but I mean, it is better that they have more villains. And Elsa Schneider, I mean, if you're going to have a Nazi villain, I mean, you might as well make her like a hot blonde chick. It's certainly different from the first movie.
yeah. No, I'm just trying to think like.
And people like having Nazis as villains. Captain America, I'm thinking, Return to Wolfenstein.
Yeah, I mean,
So
Nazis
much
make
stuff.
great villains.
Yeah, they're great villains.
Yeah, because they can get slaughtered on screen and it's not a big deal.
Exactly. Yeah. Everybody hates the Nazis, so it's okay to kill them. You don't even need to.
It's okay that with one bullet you can shoot 5 of them in a row.
Oh, that scene is so ridiculous, but it's so good.
Yeah, the tank scene was pretty sick.
Yeah.
That's another iconic scene, isn't it?
No, it's a good one, and
Which makes no sense. That scene makes no sense, but it's still cool.
It's an inspired one, and again, it comes with a lot of humor.
Yeah, that's what I like about this movie. It doesn't take itself seriously.
Right, which I think that's supposed to be part of the charm of Indiana Jones. I think again, Temple of Doom just took itself way too seriously, with the only humor or levity supposed to come from Short Round and Willie
And the
that,
girl as well. Let's not forget
yeah.
the girl, the screaming girl.
And so, because like it is ridiculous. I mean, at its on its face, look at it. Look at it. Like, this is a guy who's an atheist who finds actual proof that that essentially Jewish artifacts, Hindu artifacts, and Catholic artifacts are all real. Like, there literally was a chalice that had the blood of Christ on it and became the Holy Grail. Like, and
Yeah,
yet he
but
constantly is just like, I don't believe in any of this stuff, but I find evidence of it everywhere.
I mean, everything about it is ridiculous. I mean, the ticket scene, the Hitler giving him an autograph. I mean, everything is ridiculous, but it's great. I mean, that's what's good about Indiana Jones. You don't take it serious.
To digging a hole in a library in the middle of Venice.
That was very Dan Brown-esque, though.
Yeah. Well, Dan Brown probably brought that from Indiana Jones.
Very likely.
Yeah.
In fact, that's another thing that you see in all these franchises. When I thought about it, I mean, it applies to pretty much everything. All of the action adventure franchises, you have the main character who's a dude who's kind of like scholarly, but also adventurer in some cases. Not the Dan Brown guy, but in most cases, sort of adventurous as well.
Well, it's Sherlock Holmes too. I mean, Sherlock Holmes is an
Holmes.
adventurous, brilliant guy. Actually, a bit of an action star, according in the original story.
But what I wanted to point out, though, is that there's always a girl. In each adventure, there's a girl. There's a woman, who's sort of like the love interest / sidekick, slash damsel in distress. And that's true. Look, Broken Sword is like that. Uncharted is like that. National Treasure is like that. Da Vinci Code and all the sequels, because they're all the same movie with different settings, basically, or the same book. The Mummy, all of them is the same template. You have this adventurer guy, and then you have the woman, the love interest, and the puzzles and all. The only one that is not the same is Tomb Raider, because you can't do it because she's a girl.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, The Mummy is the inverse of that, because Brendan Fraser's character is sort of the bum. I mean, yeah, he's the romantic hero, but he is not the expert. He's not the, he is in a way a sidekick to the real person there who's there to solve it, which is Rachel Weisz's character in that. And so it's
scholar,
this, she's the scholar. Her brother's the idiot, but then also Brendan Fraser is the more qualified idiot.
But Brendan Fraser is also the action hero. So in that case, it's kind of divided. You have the action hero, you have the scholar, and you have the idiot, which is a great trio.
Yeah, no, I actually, going back, those movies I won't ever think about them, are always better than I think I gave them credit for back in the day.
They're so good. Those movies are so good, especially the first one. The first one is a nearly perfect action adventure.
Yeah, I mean, all of these can really trace themselves to
Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones.
And I mean, speaking of the Mummy, I mean the new one with Tom Cruise. Boy, that movie sucks, and it's.
Oh, I had no intention of watching that.
I mean,
what was that Universal's attempt to do their whole monster universe?
It's just terrible. I mean, I like Tom Cruise as an actor, but he's a cool action hero. But I mean,
I actually hate Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I do too.
Even as an action hero.
Yes, 100% all around.
Okay, I mean, the first Mission Impossible, good. After
that's pretty good.
Risky Business. That's the only thing I could be like, yeah, I'll watch Tom Cruise. Even Top Gun, I'd be like, nope.
Risky
Business. We're getting a sequel to that.
That is so cool. That is such a cool movie, Risky Business.
But the first mission, I remember after I saw the second Mission Impossible, I was like, not watching any more of these, and they keep making more.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
definitely overkill at this point, but the first ones are pretty cool, I would say.
I mean, I guess that's also, again, I don't like them nearly as much, but there's some inspiration taken in there.
I think, yeah, I think you're right. But Mission Impossible, I think it's more James Bond, because
Yeah.
it's spy. I mean, it's basically James Bond, but they made him American. So what do you guys think the future of the franchise is going to look like?
I mean,
Well, I hear there are two more. I haven't seen the Crystal Skull, and there's another one after that, right?
no, the one after that is the one that will be the new one.
Okay. Well,
And
I haven't seen
they
Crystal
said that will
Skull
be
yet.
the final one. They will not do another Indiana Jones without Harrison Ford.
But this movie explains why Indiana Jones has all this plot armor.
Yeah.
Because he just drank the chalice of.
But remember, it doesn't
You
work
have to-
outside of that chamber.
How do we know? Maybe Indy's just built different.
Yeah.
So
Could be.
I think they should actually do Indiana Jones 5 with Harrison Ford, which is a little bit weird because Harrison Ford, man, I think he's almost 80, isn't he? I mean, he's pretty old at this point.
Yeah, that was also an interesting thing about him and Sean Connery. Sean Connery playing his dad, and that he's only like a decade or so older than Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I don't think he was old enough to be his dad, or was he?
Yeah.
Probably not. But I mean, Harrison Ford is pretty old at this point, so it's going to be a little bit weird. But look, Rambo, Sylvester Stallone pulled off Rambo, which is crazy. But he's like almost not a human. I mean, it's crazy.
The moment in this scene where he says that he can fly a plane and can't land it just made me think of how he broke his leg while during filming the most recent Star Wars movies by failing to land his plane properly.
Oh shit! Really?
That's kind of meta.
No, but he's an old guy now. I mean, he's super cool still, and he looks actually pretty good for his age. But I think, how old is he? I think he's almost
78.
78, man. He's gonna be 80 by the time the movie comes out. We're talking about an action hero.
People just got to let him be an old man.
Well, I think a lot of times that's the case. Like, he's honestly like he likes his characters, but sometimes I think he gets a little bit upset when people want him to keep playing them. Like, he came back to do Star Wars, and I like the joke that like he famously argued with George Lucas that he should have died in Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
And so in The Force Awakens, he's like, you're gonna have me get stabbed by a lightsaber, and then I'm gonna fall over a pit, and then you're gonna blow that planet up.
And that's
I
what
will
happened,
be
right?
dead. Yeah, I mean, yeah. He's like, I will be dead.
Yeah, I think so. I will tell you what I would like to see, and we still gotta watch Indiana Jones 4 at some point, but we don't need. I don't know. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. I don't know because it's not very good.
We
But
can take a break and watch something else.
we can take a long break and then do Indiana Jones 4 because we need to do it sort of before the Indiana Jones 5 comes out. So we can take a long break. Not necessarily that long, but we'll take a break. In any case, I think I would like to see Harrison Ford do Indiana Jones 5, but then after that, I like Indiana Jones so much, and they've already screwed it up with the fourth one anyways. They should just keep going at this point. They should do a James Bond kind of thing. That's what I think. Recast and do young Indiana Jones. I don't think it makes sense to have an old Indiana Jones.
Well, I think they actually said that
they should recast, do like a guy like Tom Hardy, Tom
Hardy does every reboot.
No, not necessarily him. I mean, it could be him, but a guy like Tom Hardy, because he did. That's what they did for Mad Max. That's basically my point. Mel Gibson is too old now, so they use Tom Hardy. Use Tom Hardy or some other, probably another guy, because now Tom Hardy is Mad Max. So I don't know. Like Chris Pratt might be good. Like a guy like that, use a cool guy.
I mean, he
Uh,
basically has been Indiana Jones in like or half inspired Indiana Jones character in a couple of his movies.
Guardians. He's kind of Indiana Jones.
He's kind of that. He's kind of that in Jurassic World, and
Yeah, he would be perfect. Do Chris
Yeah, I mean, he's
Pratt.
definitely good at playing that like adventurous desperado type.
Exactly.
that's kind of who Chris Pratt is these
Who
days.
else could be good
Right.
as Indiana Jones?
Actually, I think the rumor at one point was that he would play, but I mean,
Well,
you could always go to one of the Hemsworths.
no, those guys are too good looking, I think.
Too good looking. I think that's not
And
fitting.
Australian, no, it isn't. I mean, it's not right. I don't think so, at least.
I think Chris Pratt would be a pretty good fit. I was have a hard time as seeing him as anything other than Andy from Parks and Rec.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't.
I still don't quite like
I
know how.
can't think of anyone else right
I mean, they'll
now.
find somebody. I mean, they'd be probably best if they actually found somebody brand new. Like,
Yeah, but I think that's the way to go. Recast. Yeah, I mean, because when they gave James Bond to Daniel Craig, I mean, Daniel Craig was not a popular choice, and he ended up being the best James Bond since Sean Connery. I mean, he was excellent.
actually, you know who I would like if they did it is I would be Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, he could be good.
Mostly just because, like, essentially his character Poe Dameron in the new Star Wars movies is like that swashbuckling, like,
Yeah,
you know,
I could see
humorous.
that. Yeah.
he pulls it off. Yeah, I think he would be. He's
Plus, he'd be
yeah, and
somebody.
he's about the right age, I think, because Indiana Jones is not a very young guy. So
Yeah, and he comes a bit with that younger charm. Plus, now he would also come with like a different kind of heritage casting, because I think he's Bolivian. Like he's,
yeah, but he can. I think you got to cast a Caucasian guy, because that's the
I don't.
character.
I think you can go, especially if he's kind
But
of.
Oscar Isaac looks Caucasian. I mean, he would be fine. I mean, but yeah, I don't know.
What I mean by that is that he very easily pull off being someone who's an educated.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. That's why he would be good. You gotta. It has to be someone that can look smart as well.
okay, yeah, he's actually Guatemalan and Cuban. Again, I would love it. I mean, honestly, because I just feel like there's no reason he can't look any which way, which is why
Well, but
I've always been on.
he
Which is why
looks.
I've always been on the.
Oscar Isaac is Caucasian, though. I mean, he just has some like Latin American heritage, but he
Well,
does.
his mother is Guatemalan and his father is Cuban.
Yeah, we have white people in Cuba. I mean, Cubans are. You had people coming from Spain, from Africa, from all over the place. I mean, you have a guy like. Well, you probably don't watch the UFC, but Yoel Romero is like a totally black dude from Cuba. He's a fantastic fighter.
But yeah, no, I would totally. I mean, I've been on the train that I'd love to see. I was if they were needed to replace Daniel Craig, I was like Idris Elba. I was like that would be amazing for James Bond, and it's like all these characters are basically avatars and templates. Like anybody they can find any way to play. That's why they represent such like this is why these movies are fun is because anybody should be able to grow up seeing themselves within these characters, and so anybody can play them.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody should be able to like step into a role. Um, like I think that's a good like Batman is a good example, right? Like anybody can be the Batman, as they say.
I mean, they've kind of actually gone that way in the comics recently.
I think you can do anyone for Indiana Jones, but it's not right. I mean, I think like the closest you can do to Harrison Ford. I think the better.
Well, that's the thing is that you kind of don't want to tread on Harrison Ford's legacy within this, and so you almost I mean, the way I would approach it is you almost want to come at it from a new approach. Still go with the charm, the swashbuckling, the edgy, the all that, but like know that you're not by trying to emulate Indiana Jones and or Harrison Ford, you harm yourself by potentially becoming caricature and imitation,
Right.
like trying to imitate too much.
Yeah, I think someone that has his own personality. I mean, Daniel Craig is a good, that's a good
Yeah.
example. But he's like Sean Connery in some ways, like he doesn't like James Bond is still James Bond, but he also brings in his own, characteristics. So I think that's the good James Bond. The good modern James Bonds. I would say are those guys. They bring in their own personality, but you're always going to have Sean Connery, right? When you look at James Bond, I think it still needs to be Sean Connery-esque. But then, yeah, you bring in your own personality. In any case, I think Indiana Jones is kind of that's what I would like to see. Someone like that could do that, and just a recast and do it like James Bond. Have each movie is its own adventure, and I think that would be cool. That would be cool because it makes more sense than having Harrison Ford doing Indiana Jones 6 when he's 90. I think that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense if he's even alive. Poor guy, I mean, not poor guy, but
I mean, we
nobody
learned that like Indiana is not even
nobody lives forever, obviously.
we learned that Indiana is not actually his name.
Oh yeah, we learned that. Yeah.
And so like it could almost be a title that you give to somebody. So then it doesn't have to be the same type of Indiana Jones. Like it's a title that's passed down to be this adventurer.
What about you guys? Do you guys agree? Should they do like a James Bond kind of thing with Indiana Jones, or just call it quits, or what do you guys think?
No, I think it would be I think it could definitely be like a good episodic thing, and I think there's still a lot of room to, like I said earlier, hand off that torch.
As long as you don't get Indiana Jones in space.
Right.
I mean,
But like, I
it
mean, I
should
think
be still
having
in the 30s, I think, because you can't just Indiana Jones is now in the 2000s. That wouldn't make sense. I think it should be in the 30s.
I think you could just introduce like a completely new character that takes up the mantle of Indiana Jones. Like if I were to write it, I would start out with, like a college student doing a thesis and discovering something interesting, and then reading a paper that Indiana wrote. Meeting up with him in his retired college days, talking to him, and then he's all like, "Let it go, kid. It's a myth." And then the guy's like, "No, it can't be. Like, I've got to go like chase down this secret hidden temple." And then he's like, "All right," and like begrudgingly hands him like the hat and the whip.
Yeah, I mean, you could. It's almost sort of like you do it like how Creed was a follow up to the Rocky movies, like in a way, like you.
Yeah, that worked. That worked out really well. I think that would be a cool approach as well. Although I think Creed makes more sense just because of how the movie, Rocky is Sylvester Stallone. I mean, that you cannot recast Rocky.
Well, that's why I say is like you can't have a new Indiana Jones that's not.
I think you can. I think you can do the James Bond. Rocky, I don't think you can. I think it would be crazy. But
I don't know. I feel like you can have it be a symbolic title that gets passed down from one person to another, and they just become. And you could also like I think like Indiana Jones, the previous one, was obsessed with taking stuff and putting in museums. Like you could almost, if I were to write it, I'd almost write it where this person who would discover things would find a way to preserve other people's culture for themselves, and not like. Because like there is a bit of like colonialism involved with like taking and raiding stuff, and
oh, definitely, there's some heavy colonizer energy.
Yeah, and so
I think one of my bigger themes that I liked was him giving back to the village in Temple of Doom. Right, like as appropriative as the movie comes off, he he does like what I would consider to be the
I think he's
most
like
ethical thing.
I agree with you. I think he's like a hero. He's like anti-colonial. That's a big part of his identity. In fact, that's something they explored because they did a TV show, and it's a pretty decent TV show. It's not. I mean, it's not as good as the movie.
The Young Indiana Jones Adventures.
Yeah, which was good for at the time. These days I think it would be a lot better because at the time I think they made it in the 90s. Right then, I'm not really sure, but TV shows weren't that good in the 90s. I mean, that kind of TV show for the most part. if it were today, I think they should do. That's another thing that they could do. They could do, instead of doing like a billion Star Wars shows. That, come on, how many Star Wars shows are you gonna do? I mean, it's crazy. They announced what, 8 TV shows? Like, who's
Oh,
gonna
they're going to keep
watch
going.
eight?
Everyone's going to watch them.
Again, this is
Eight?
where I was
No.
talking.
So many people.
8 or 9? I mean, eight or
Yes,
nine.
so many people, Bruno, are going to watch those.
Well, I'm not gonna
And
watch.
it's not
all
just
the
like,
shows.
it's not just you, it's like kids, like future generations. It's like how people go back and rewatch Star Trek.
I mean, I agree, but how many do you
Like,
need?
when's the last time a Star Trek movie or a TV series came out?
But yeah, I would say that
I mean, it's too much.
at some point I almost would wish that they would just do Star Wars Variety Hour twice a week, and you do like Mandalorian adventures within this hour and whatnot. You know, at some point I'm not going to be able to watch everything. But
I
then
don't
again, I
think-
guess these are mostly for kids who have more time to watch stuff than I do.
I don't think you can watch.
Yeah, this
8.
is for kids and families.
Yeah.
But in any case, do one Indiana. Give me one Indiana Jones, young Indiana Jones TV show. I would like that because the one from the '90s is cool, but it's a little bit dated more than the movies. But in any case, in the show, they double down on the whole anti-colonial thing. I mean, Indiana Jones is the hero of the people, really, and hero of knowledge. You know, he's trying to steal stuff to give it to the museums where, you know, these things belong for the knowledge of mankind, and he's always against the bad guy. I mean, he's a hero, you know, but he's definitely anti-colonial.
I mean, he did spend a lot of time saying it belongs in a museum.
Yeah, it's like his catchphrase.
And so, like, I again think that, like, the update to it, if you were going to have a new person be this, like, international cultural hero, like, he'd be more explicitly, like, on the side of preserving people's culture for themselves, like, helping. And I'd like to see that if they go that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
we'll see what they do. I think James Mangold is going to do the new movie, and he did a fantastic job with finishing the Wolverine movies up with Logan. So I'm pretty excited for him.
Oh, is that the guy who directed Logan?
Yeah.
Hey, you remember the non-canon Deadpool from one of those Wolverine movies?
Yeah, that was terrible. But that movie was atrocious. That was the worst X-Men movie by a long shot. I mean, that was
by a country mile for sure.
Yeah, that was a really, really
so bad.
Yeah, really bad X-Men.
Where they literally stitched shut the mouth of the Merc with a mouth.
Yeah, no, that was by far the worst X-Men movie.
And if you want to talk about effects that don't age well, try watching some scenes on that now.
Oh yeah, with the I really love like early era CG because like it looks so bad.
It looks very bad, and that movie wasn't
bad
particularly good looking when it came out. Imagine now.
And like as it gets to look better, it can look worse. It's just a roller coaster of uncanny valley with special effects until you get to like current day, and even then, I'm sure in 10 years we're gonna look back and be like, "What is this trash?"
I do think the Mandalorian show right now is they basically have pioneered something that is going to definitely stand the test of time. They basically work in a dome of LED screens.
Yeah, it's called The Volume.
Yeah,
I think we talked about this last time, didn't we?
Yeah, it's just I'm so impressed by it. Whenever I watch something now, it's like
it looks really good. The Mandalorian.
But you know, you're right.
Absolutely
maybe 15
insane.
years though, we'll look at that and like, oh, man, what were they doing there?
And the Mandalorian. By the way, we should do our episode on the Mandalorian pretty soon. The last episode is Friday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to get caught up.
Let's see if we can do it on Friday. There we go. I really like the guy that plays the Mandalorian.
Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, he's the guy from Narcos. That guy's so good.
Oh, I thought you said Naruto for a minute.
No, not Naruto. Narcos, the Netflix show.
Yeah, most people that I think they remember him from also Game of Thrones. He was the Red Viper.
Prince
Yeah,
Oberyn.
I mean he's also that guy, but I don't like that character in Game of Thrones. I like
Awesome
him.
in the book.
Yeah, in the book,
Yeah.
in the show, he comes out as a. I mean, it's unfair to him because he basically comes out in what? He's in one episode, two episodes.
Yeah, Prince Oberyn.
Yeah.
This guy was so great.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
mean, he's
crazy, violent bisexual man who's just
exactly.
like,
He's supposed to
today
be a
is not the
fantastic
day I
character.
die.
Yeah,
Prince Oberyn on the day he died.
yeah.
Yeah.
They destroyed that character in the show, unfortunately.
I didn't know this was also Mando.
Yep.
Yeah,
He's
it's
also
him.
going to be the villain in the new Wonder Woman movie that comes out in a week and a half.
But what's cool about The Mandalorian, or what's different, is that The Mandalorian is actually a bunch of guys. That's what I discovered. It's him. He's like the main character, not the main character, the main actor. But he's always wearing a mask, right? So there's like, I think it's two more guys wear the mask and do the stuff, because I mean he does like crazy action moves. He does martial arts, shooting, and so they use like guys that are really good at that stuff. And when he talks, it's usually him. Well, I think it's always him talking. So the Mandalorian is really a composite character in a very literal sense, because it's like I think it's three guys playing the Mandalorian.
The theory I like is that the little Yoda Grogu is actually the Mandalorian, and the show's going to end up with him being like he's going to take up the mantle.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah.
I just like that. I like that a lot better because it also explains why, man, another force sensitive person's been available when like we could have been having more Jedi during all this time. There's just so many of these characters. How come only Luke was the only real Jedi for 30 years? But
they're gonna have to come out with a lot of new stuff in order to
they are.
make these TV shows make sense, because if not, I mean, Star Wars was supposed to be one movie. It was supposed to be Star Wars. That's it. And then
it was the biggest movie of all time.
Yeah, and then George Lucas thought, oh, okay, let's come up with a bigger story. So he created a bigger story. And now it's not George Lucas stories anymore. It's basically this giant machine that Disney is building.
Yeah, I mean, at the heart of it, most things come down to like certain themes. And George Lucas and Spielberg really, they had just a lot of they loved the hero's journey. They loved a lot of the classic themes, and they liked mining that. And we got Indiana Jones from that. We got Luke Skywalker from that.
Yeah, Indiana Jones is definitely the hero's journey. Not as clear.
Star Wars also has a lot of heavy Akira Kurosawa influences. So,
and he likes westerns. You can see that he likes westerns as well because Indy is heavily influenced by the cowboy type, the Mandalorian. I mean, I guess that's not George Lucas, but
the Mandalorian and most of Star Wars is really from samurai and movies.
Okay, yeah, but
Kurosawa.
I should say Han Solo. Han Solo is like a space cowboy. Yeah. But now it's not George Lucas anymore, obviously, or Steven Spielberg. But obviously, they made the Mandalorian is kind of a mixture of a martial artist and a cowboy.
Well, so I will say that I think the reason why the Mandalorian works is that people understood though the influences George Lucas had from Kurosawa, because there's particularly one episode this season. I don't know how far you've watched. Have you watched up to?
I haven't watched the last episode.
I just saw the. I've watched the first episode where they reveal Ahsoka.
Okay, so that episode in particular is basically a Akira Kurosawa film,
right?
Like The Wandering Ronin. Actually, that's Ronin.
Mm-hmm.
But you have the Wandering Ronin who happens upon a village and helps liberate it from an evil ruler. And so like those themes, that's what and so I think that's the people who are successful in making more Star Wars stuff understand that the influences that influence George Lucas are still important.
Oh, totally.
And so like between Kurosawa, between Buck Rogers and the serial stuff, it's I can talk forever because Star Wars is just so dear to me.
There's a lot of influence in like the dogfights in like space battles in Star Wars, to the point that like in the original series they're like some old black and white like World War II films that are like shot for shot recreated.
Yeah, George Lucas really liked World War II.
I mean, Red Tails was one
dog fight.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of thing that he like grew up watching, and you can
Yeah.
absolutely see like the influence there.
And so, like, the reason why I feel though that the stuff that works when people do make more Star Wars is when they understand like this is where the inspiration came from. C-3PO and R2-D2 are a thing because in Hidden Fortress, one of the key narrative things that Kurosawa put in there was it's a big epic story, but it's told from the point of view of two bumbling idiots who don't know what's going on around them. And that's your C-3PO and R2-D2. Like, they are basically it's a big serious story told from the point of view of the two comedic relief characters.
Yeah, I mean, I think R2-D2 is actually secretly the main character of Star Wars.
Oh yeah. Totally. And so I guess we can punctuate a lot of this by it's just understanding themes is sometimes what really makes a lot of these movies just hit so much better when they get it right. And
Absolutely. So let's finish up the Indiana Jones podcast here before we talk more Star Wars.
Yeah. Clearly we need to do a Star Wars podcast at some point.
I mean, yeah, Indiana Jones and Star Wars is basically the same process, They were.
We really need to talk about Star Wars Episode 1.
We'll do.
We need to do the Phantom Menace.
So I think we should do 2 series. One for each trilogy. I don't want to do the new ones because those movies suck. I don't want to waste my time and yours doing those movies. But I think
they're all good, but I also secretly think that all Star Wars movies are bad movies. They're all bad, and I love them all.
But for sure, we'll talk about that at some point. But for sure, we need to do the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. I think we got to do those at some point. I don't know when, but we'll do those.
Whenever we do episode A New Hope, we need to play the clip of somebody who recut the Obi-Wan Darth Vader fight from A New Hope and showed how like newer editing of the exact same scene can make it be like an action scene from today, just with the exact same footage.
Really?
Look it up on YouTube. It's fantastic.
I'll check it out. Because even like when I watched that as a kid, like that first scene, I was like, this scene sucks.
Yeah. Well, that one was supposed to be a traditional, like done by a traditional samurai stunt person.
Right.
And it's only later that they realize, oh, if they have this ability if they're basically big psychics essentially, or telepaths that can, telekinetics. They're basically powerful telekinetics. They should be able to do all sorts of superhuman feats then. So that was only realized later. Whereas that one was meant to be just a typical, like, right down to like actual samurai sword technique.
Yeah, they changed the style of the fights for sure. And I heard an interview with I listened to an interview with what's the name of the guy that plays Luke Skywalker? Mark Hamill. And he said that was something that George Lucas told him, like he wanted to do some moves and stuff like that. He wanted to make it, cooler. But George Lucas had this idea that the fights were going to be very traditional. It was going to be very, like you said, Dan, like samurai movements or like even like medieval. He told him that he should imagine that the lightsabers weighed a lot of they were very heavy, and that so there the idea, the aesthetics of George Lucas for those fights were of like a heavy aesthetics and kind of slow, elegant. And then he completely changed his mind for the prequels, and he was like, "Yeah, let's go crazy." I don't know why he changed his mind, but he definitely.
Well, he only wrote one draft for every movie, so
It was a long time. Maybe that was because the Last Jedi, or not the Last Jedi, the Return of the Jedi came out, I think, in '85 or something like that, right? So it was essentially, it was almost
my brother saw it in theaters, so
yeah, it was 15 years, almost 15 years before the other one came out. So it was a big gap, and
Yeah.
they were basically doing the Indiana Jones movies in between. That was kind of the Star Wars uh, in between franchise.
Yeah, I know my brother has vivid memories of going to see Return of the Jedi in theater and everybody clapping when Darth Vader throws the Emperor over the catwalk. Like the whole theater cheered.
Can you imagine watching Star Wars? Movies don't even have that sort of impact anymore. Now it's shows. It's something like Game of Thrones.
It
Star Wars
kind of
was the
happened
Game
in
of
Return of the
Thrones.
King for me. My viewing of it, I remember people definitely like cheered at moments during that. There's been movies like that where it's happened. Black Panther had a lot of that actually when I went and watched.
Oh, totally.
People were. It was a
No,
hot
but
one.
you can't compare Black Panther with the original.
I'm
Star
talking about like the audience experience, like I think there were movies like these, like Indiana Jones, like Star Wars, that evoked such a strong audience response, different than Alien did. That's caught people to throw up and leave the movie theater. But
Really, people left the movie theater.
oh yeah, the chest burster,
Wow.
the chest bursting scene, like caused people to
Yeah.
throw up and leave.
We got to do that movie at some point. That's such a good movie.
Yeah,
It's one of those things that makes me think that humanity is just like so far gone, because I don't see that happening anymore.
the audience engagement like that.
Yeah, or like
It happened
the
in
era of
Avengers
like shock
Endgame.
and gore.
Oh, shock and gore. Yeah, we can't be shocked anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's not the same anymore. I don't think we're even gonna get that from movies anymore. Like those sorts of like powerful moments.
Yeah.
I think now it's TV shows.
It is. I will say that Avengers Endgame, as much as I don't think it's a great movie, the final scene definitely
It
evoked.
sucks, man. It's a terrible movie.
It still evoked cheers when I went and watched. Everybody cheered, and
I think that's a case of like collective delusion. I don't know. Do you guys think those movies are any good? I think they're trash. I can't understand how people are excited for those movies.
they're
I just don't understand. Do you guys think they're good?
they're pop culture serotonin.
Well,
this-
exactly. I agree. Yeah.
They hit. They are. At this point, we know what we get with them, and for a lot of people who grew up with these things, it's great to see these on screen finally.
True. Anyways, last remarks about the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Ian, you muted yourself.
oh yeah, sorry.
I would just say good wrap up to the trilogy. Should have ended there. It didn't. We'll see how it ends with 5.
Yeah, I think this definitely redeemed the franchise for me, because the second one was at the point where I would actually consider it not good.
Mhm.
And yeah, this definitely brought it back. I didn't think it was the most gripping, and maybe it was just because I wasn't in as much of a movie mood as I probably should have been for it, but I definitely recognized it as like a solid effort. I'm hoping to see Crystal Skull next, because I just want to see the refrigerator nuclear bomb scene that I've heard about.
We'll watch it soon.
It's-
Dan doesn't want to watch it, but we'll watch
I mean,
it.
I'll watch it, but man, that's
I'll
not
watch
even
it on my own time.
No,
I
That's,
don't
no,
wanna
no, no.
put you
Let's
through it,
do
Dan.
a podcast. Let's do a podcast.
No. I don't want to ruin the quality that was
No, but we
this
can.
one.
I think that's the best podcast that we can make about the Indiana because we can shit on the movie in the
I also
podcast.
do like I made a point, like I was telling Bruno that like we could have talked about this yesterday, but I wanted to have someone come on and talk about it who hasn't seen the movie prior to, and so a fresh take on something that who didn't grow up with it as a kid.
Yeah, sorry, I just passed out at like the crack of 8 o'clock last night.
Well, that's what we figured.
You know,
It's
yesterday
okay.
was a really tiring day for me. I like fell asleep twice during the middle of the day. I think whenever the weather shifts, my allergies just take me out.
But
Yeah, my
anyways,
old man bones just put me to bed.
Yeah.
we'll do. Thanks for watching the podcast, and we'll do Indiana Jones 4 at some point. But yeah,
We'll
definitely
have to figure out what we do this week.
great trilogy, great movie.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.